Academy Awards controversy, why some big-name celebrities are boycotting this year's Oscars, saying it's time for a change.
An unwanted intruder, like a scene out of Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Police say a family finds someone sleeping in one of their beds, but it's who was there and whose bed he was in that would have parents on edge.
Also not in my neighborhood, why one Albuquerque woman is sending a big message this morning to a new Taco Bell moving in, and she's using a fence as a canvas. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Adam Atchison.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Krista Gutierrez. Today is Tuesday, January 19th. We'll get to those stories in just a bit. But first, we are talking weather.
We sure are cold to start the day, but Kristen has some nice news for later. Good morning.
Nice news. I like that. Yeah, it is going to be nice news because we're finally starting to warm up, even warmer than yesterday in some parts of the state. But this morning, temperature about 32 degrees. That's more than 5 degrees warmer than yesterday. Winds out of the east only about 3 miles per hour. Now we will see winds pick up just a touch, about 10 to 15 miles per hour this afternoon. But the Doppler radar continues to show those showers that we have up to the north, they're weakening as we speak. So not a whole lot out there except for the cloud cover. And if I zoom this out, you'll notice all that activity out against the west coast. We do have another weak disturbance on the way today. More snow, light snow that is, expected overnight. Now temps across the state. We have more the 30s and 40s to the south. Even Alamosa, who's usually below zero at this time, sitting at 12 degrees this morning. 3-day forecast for us here in the Duke City. We're talking 50s today and again tomorrow. Mix of sun and clouds, but more sunshine by Thursday. So really it's the overnight snow that we're focused in on. I'll break down who can expect snow and how much we're talking here in about 15 minutes.
All right, thanks, Kristen. Minute past the hour. First this morning, crews returned to work on a new Taco Bell in Albuquerque while a neighbor tries to catch attention with this massive message right here. This is the work of Kathy Wiley. She lives next door to the bustling construction site of a soon-to-be Taco Bell on 4th Street. And she's not happy about it, writing, "Taco Bell is killing me."
I'm being driven from my home every single day. My blood pressure is going up and up and up.
Wiley says the construction is shaking her house. She says after learning that she doesn't have cause for a lawsuit, she picked up a paintbrush. An official with the Denver-based construction company told us that Wiley is the only person who's complained. They also said the project should be done in 2 weeks and that workers are doing their best to be mindful of neighbors. We did reach out to Taco Bell for comment too, but didn't hear back.
On to this now. We did some checking this morning and found the Albuquerque man arrested after climbing into a 13-year-old girl's room and falling asleep remains locked up. APD says Christopher Hay broke a window at the home near 4th Street and I-40 to get into the bedroom. The girl's mother says she noticed her daughter's door was locked when she went to gather up laundry. She says she unlocked the door with a butter knife, then noticed something very wrong.
I got scared and ran out of there, and I told Danny that there's somebody in the bedroom.
So the girl was not in the room when Hay broke in. News 13 has learned Hay is the son of former APD officer and mayoral candidate Paul Hay. He's now facing a felony breaking and entering charge. A suspected car thief is locked up this morning after police say he ran from them. It began yesterday morning when APD says a car was stolen on Valencia near Gibson and San Pedro. At some point, the suspect ditched the vehicle. Police say he then led officers on a foot chase before he was taken into custody. No other details or the suspect's name have been released at this time. This morning, the hunt continues for the man wanted for a recent Albuquerque murder. APD says this man here, Darius Vias, shot and killed 42-year-old Jerry Jennings. That was on Friday near Catherine and Vale. Police say they found an ankle bracelet that belonged to Vias near the scene. There's now an arrest warrant out for Vias on a murder charge. On to news happening today. Texas authorities are expected to hold a hearing requesting to transfer affluenza teen Ethan Couch's court proceedings from juvenile to adult court.
The teenager himself is still in Mexico, but his mother has been extradited to the U.S. The pair fled across the border late last year over fears that he would be found to be in violation of his probation. Despite killing 4 people in a drunk driving accident, Couch only received probation after his lawyers argued that his wealthy upbringing left him unable to distinguish right from wrong.
On to other news happening today. Residents in Flint plan to take legal action against Michigan Governor Rick Snyder. This over his response to the town's water contamination issue. This morning, the town is still struggling to get clean water to its residents after the water became contaminated with high levels of lead. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered outside the governor's residence yesterday, calling for his arrest and his resignation. Attorneys representing Flint residents plan to announce 2 new class action lawsuits later today targeting Governor Snyder. Snyder is set to give his State of the State address later on today as well.
This morning, immigrant children from Central America may soon be heading to Holloman Air Force Base. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services says the Air Force Base plans to hold 400 kids at a time in an unused wing of the base starting this month. Some Alamogordo residents say they don't agree with the decision, saying that we should take care of our own first. The city says the children will not be going to any public schools in the area and that they will stay on base. Coming up on 6:05 this morning, state lawmakers are just hours away from the start of this year's legislative session.
And one of the big issues they'll be facing, the debate over New Mexico driver's licenses. A new poll from one organization shows New Mexicans do not want to take away licenses from illegal immigrants. Polling group Latino Decisions says it surveyed 500 registered voters. Nearly 70% said people who are here illegally should be able to get some kind of license.
One data point that's not in this poll, but I think speaks to why we see this trend played out in the data, is the majority of Hispanic registered voters in the state of New Mexico know somebody personally who's been an undocumented immigrant themselves.
So Governor Susana Martinez's office is firing back, calling the poll slanted. She's also pointing to her big win last election on how New Mexicans really feel about giving illegal immigrants the same driver's licenses citizens get. The governor backs a proposal that would require illegal immigrants to get a driver's permit. Coming up in our next half hour, a full look at some of the other big decisions lawmakers could make during the 30-day session and how they could possibly affect you. Onto this morning, some Albuquerque elderly residents are probably still talking about the generosity of others.
Yeah, we often don't think about it. Seniors going hungry, but thanks to the help of some volunteers, some elderly residents are getting the food that they need. Yesterday, dozens of Albuquerque seniors were able to shop at the Barelas Center. It's all part of the 3rd annual Senior Food Pantry shopping experience. The pantry was set up as a store so that people could select items like produce, baked goods, and fresh eggs.
Everybody's so nice. Very gentle and personality. I love them.
The volunteers helped the seniors shop and carry some of the groceries. They say they fed more than 200 seniors yesterday. Each of them got about 15 pounds of food. What a way to help. Well, this morning, tributes are pouring in for Glenn Frey, a founding member and guitarist of the Eagles. Frey died yesterday at the age of 67 after battling multiple ailments. He helped form the Eagles with drummer Don Henley in the early 1970s. The Eagles are responsible for hits like Hotel California, Life in the Fast Lane. According to the band's website, Frey died in New York. He was 67.
Now 6:07 this morning, friends, family, and others are remembering the still missing Marines who were on board 2 helicopters when it crashed during training. It happened off the coast of Hawaii late Thursday night. This morning, crews are still searching that area. 6 Marines were on board each aircraft. The Coast Guard says they are conducting an around-the-clock mission to find the missing. Officials say debris consistent with the helicopters has been collected, but they have not given any specifics. They do say they are still looking for survivors.
Listen to this. A gun store in Florida is right in the middle of controversy this morning after the store put a tube sculpture holding a rifle in front of its store. Drivers called the county to complain, saying they felt threatened because they thought it was a real person aiming a gun at them. The gun store owner, he says he doesn't understand how that's even possible considering the shape of the outline of the sculpture. The county has since asked the store to move the sculpture away from the road.
It is kind of intimidating.
It would be intimidating. I have to agree with that.
Even though you can tell it's not a real person. It is kind of intimidating.
They're called tube dudes, by the way, those tube sculptures. Yeah, interesting. This morning, calls to boycott the Oscars next month are gaining momentum.
Yeah, actress Jada Pinkett Smith and director Spike Lee are among those who will not be attending. This after learning that for the 2nd consecutive year, the Academy failed to nominate a single performance by a black actor. Late Monday, Academy President Cheryl Boone Isaacs issued a statement saying she is heartbroken and frustrated over the lack of diversity.
It'd be interesting to see how this shakes out because I know there's been some argument on this in the past too.
Yes.
Past Oscars.
And they said they try to make strides to actually put more black, I would say, judges onto the panel for the Oscars, but it's only a really small fraction of the overall panel of those judging. Police chase and puppies. The very odd group of passengers one woman was carrying while speeding away from officers.
And first day back, the gavel drops on opening day of this year's legislative session in just hours. The top issues lawmakers are facing.
Also breaking overnight, train collision. The latest on what authorities say caused a train to hit a truck in the metro. That's next. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to KRQE News 13 this morning. I'm Krista Gutierrez.
And I'm Adam Atchison. It's Tuesday, January 19th. We'll have the day's top stories coming up in just a moment. But first, a lot of kids, a lot of students heading back to the bus stops.
Yeah, so they're all wondering how cold it's going to be this morning. Let's get to Kristen Curry.
Good morning, guys. Yeah, pretty cold to start our day, but at least we're warmer than yesterday. Wanted to first start with a live look outside Cloudcroft. You look good this morning with only a few high clouds up there. Same kind of thing here in the metro with those high clouds, but we are making way for a full day of sunshine. You'll notice the Doppler radar keeps those clouds off to the south and east. We actually did have a little bit of some light snow out over the northwest and northern mountains late last night. Most of those showers have disappeared on us, but you'll notice those current temps across the state. For the kiddos walking to the bus stop this morning, definitely a jacket needed, but we're a good 5 degrees warmer here in the metro compared to yesterday. More 40s on the map to the south and a good chunk of southern New Mexico in those 30s and 40s to start the day. So we'll be watching those morning showers to the north of us. We have yet another weak disturbance moving in tonight. That will keep the snow chances alive, but the temperatures not affected too much despite these cold fronts moving through. So I'll break down that entire 7-day forecast for you. We'll go over tonight's snow chances as well here in about 10 minutes.
We'll begin with news breaking overnight. Crews have spent most of the night investigating and clearing debris after a train crash. This is video taken near El Pueblo and Edith. We've learned this morning it involved a BNSF railway train. Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office investigators were on scene to look into it. They tell us the cargo train hit a truck, but luckily there were no injuries. No word on how it all unfolded. We'll continue to update this story and bring you the very latest on air and on the KRQE News app.
This morning, police are warning others about someone they say is an old school con man, saying he's cool, calm, and collected, and confusing cashiers into giving him cash. Surveillance video from the Golden Corral near San Mateo and Osuna shows what happened Sunday afternoon. A man picks up a drink, waits for the line to clear, then approaches the register. He starts with a big bill, then asks for change, then confuses the cashier with more change. After a series of quick actions, the man makes off with $50 more than what he started with and a free drink.
He confuses you in the process of while you're still counting your money, putting money back into your drawer.
Now, workers later realized the man pulled the same scheme twice in one day. The first time he made out with $100 more. To get a better look, head on over to our story on our website. That's KRQE.com or go to our KRQE News app. Moving on to news happening today, Governor Susana Martinez is gearing up for her annual State of the State address.
The governor's report on the shape and outlook of the state kicks off the legislature's 30-day session. The biggest concern, balancing the state's more than $6 billion budget. But lawmakers are also set to discuss a number of hot-ticket items. Here's News 13's Catherine Mazzone with a preview. Catherine.
Good morning, Adam. Friction between Republicans and Democrats are expected to make it a little bit more difficult to balance the budget. Since it's an election year with both the House and Senate up for grabs, it could be a partisan fight over issues like education reform and state IDs. On education, a former Bernalillo County educator is sponsoring a bill to phase in minimum salary increases for teachers and principals. Democratic Senator Mimi Stewart wants qualified teachers to make at least $34,000 a year starting next school year, with a $2,000 raise every year after, topping out at $40,000. Compliance with the Real ID Act is still a hot-button issue. 2 Republican representatives proposed a House bill that would require applicants to show proof they are in the U.S. legally before getting a federally compliant driver's license. And some who are here illegally could get a driving permit. Tougher laws for repeat offenders led to 2 proposals for 3 strikes laws, requiring mandatory life imprisonment for 3 violent felony convictions. Now, again, the only thing that has to get done this session is the budget. All these other issues come secondary. Back to you.
Okay, thanks, Catherine. The governor's State of the State address is scheduled for noon today.
The New Mexico lottery is in jeopardy of losing a big chunk of funding. Some lawmakers feel that money would be better spent where it was originally intended. In 2014, lawmakers passed a bill to help brim the scholarship fund with about $19 million from a state alcohol tax. And if you take away that excess tax, the lottery scholarship would only cover around 60% of student tuition. Right now it's around 90%. Students say cutting funding could be a bad thing overall.
If we're talking 70s, even 80s, 60s, we're getting to a position where we're going to see enrollment drop.
Students are hoping the money does stay. The ASUNM is now planning on letting lawmakers know their concerns during this year's legislative session. Lawmakers behind the state alcohol tax say the money was never intended for scholarships.
There is a new warning this morning for people who live in high-rise buildings.
A new study suggests those who do could possibly be putting their health at risk. Listen to this. According to a new Canadian study, the higher a person lives in a high-rise building, the lower their chances of surviving cardiac arrest. Building access and elevator delays were to blame. Those living below the third floor had the best chances of survival.
New facts this morning on just how important sleep can be. Researchers at the University of Chicago say catching up on sleep may actually help lower your risk of diabetes. They found diabetes risk jumped 16% for healthy young men who were sleep deprived. But with 2 nights of extra sleep, insulin levels returned to normal.
On to this now. This morning, the Bay Bridge in San Francisco is back open and flowing. This after shutting down because of protesters. Take a look at your TV screens here. The protesters, Black Lives Matters, they started the protest and the march yesterday afternoon, just as rush hour commute began. Traffic was backed up for miles. Some of the demonstrators chained cars together. Others sat down in traffic. The group said in a statement they were seeking, quote, an increase in the health and well-being of all Black people in Oakland and San Francisco. At least 25 people were arrested in this.
On to some new video this morning that shows quite a show on a California freeway. Police arrested a woman late last night after they say she led them on a pursuit with 6 dogs in her car. According to authorities, officers noticed the suspect's vehicle on the shoulder of the road, and when they went to approach her, the driver just sped away. After multiple times of trying to get the driver to stop, police disabled that car by performing a pit maneuver, and that's when the driver got out along with 3 of her 6 dogs. She was arrested as police gathered up the animals. No word on why she had so many dogs in the vehicle or why she sped away from police in the first place.
Could you imagine officers thinking, okay, how are we going to gather all these dogs up?
I know, exactly. Whole other problem to worry about, right?